Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We have residents from the city of Cleveland, Cleveland police officers, and community stakeholders here today. And I want to give a special thank you to the councilman of this ward, Councilman Michael Polinsik. Thank you for attending and joining us today. Your presence here highlights the importance of the conversation we are about to have today. As someone whose family has been profoundly affected by the tragic consequences of a police pursuit, I understand deeply how vital it is to get these policies right. The devastating outcome of a high-speed chase in 2012 that led to the loss of Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams and the subsequent $3 million settlement paid by the city serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need for thoughtful and well-informed policy adjustment. That's just one example. It is essential that we address these issues with the utmost care to ensure that those that are directly impacted in our community have a meaningful voice in what's happening in this policy. We want our community members to have a voice in shaping the practices that govern their neighborhoods. The Cleveland Division of Police pursuit policy has evolved since that incident, but ongoing scrutiny and improvements are essential. Nationally, the grim reality is that over 11,500 people have lost their lives due to high-speed pursuits since 1979, including at least 139 officers and 5,066 innocent bystanders, including at least 2,456 who were pedestrians and motorists in vehicles. Locally, we've seen many fatalities and accidents resulting from pursuits, making it clear that our approach must be both cautious and strategic. But notably, one thing that I noticed is that we lack community involvement in the formulation of a lot of these policies. But we're here to change that, right? Right. Today's event is an opportunity to review, refine our policies to create a better balance of risk and reward. A recent example showing how the policy is still inadequate is, according to the former police chief, the internal affairs investigation, who spoke on the internal affairs investigation of the incident that had killed Tamia Chapman, that they only found minor violations that were violated on the policy. And we know that's not right. We aim to ensure that these policies are clear, consistent, and hold officers accountable, all while incorporating meaningful input from community members. The Cleveland Community Police Commission's primary goal is to embed the voices of residents into the fabric of police reform. Your insight is invaluable as we work together to align our pursuit policies with public safety priorities and community needs. As we deliberate on approving our policies, addressing the risk and reward balance, and enhancing clarity and strengthening accountability mechanisms, let us remain focused on our common goal: fostering a safe, respectable, and effective approach to law enforcement. Over the course of the past few weeks, I've been asked from a number of sources, what is the purpose of this event? Basically, we want to hear your thoughts. Your thoughts on whether you support police chases. Your thoughts on if topics like if you believe that it's acceptable for Cleveland police officers to chase suspects into other cities or not. You can provide the policy, and you can provide and review the policy, information to the policy and review the policy. You can review it directly and make specific changes, or you can give us a general and overall comment to what you think is right. So if you don't think that police should engage in chases at all, we want to know that. Your insight and general feedback as a Cleveland resident is important to us. Your insight will help us understand when and where and what circumstances police pursuit should occur. Your feedback will be instrumental in refining our approach to ensure the best services and our community needs are taken care of. So I just want to really thank you guys who are here for coming out. And thank you for your commitment to participating in police reform. Together, I believe that we can work towards policies that not only protect lives, but also build trust within our community. So I see our keynote speaker has arrived, so let's get this started. Commissioner Benito, did you want to say anything, or are you okay? Okay. So we're going to get started with our keynote speaker. So it is my privilege to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, Attorney Stanley Jackson, who is a dedicated advocate for justice and reform. Attorney Jackson, a proud native of Cleveland, has been a faithful champion for those in need throughout his career. He earned his Bachelor's of Science and Master's in Public Administration and Internal Affairs from Bowling Green State University before completing his Juris Doctorate at the University of Dayton Law School. With over 15 years of legal experience, Mr. Jackson has built a notable practice encompassing trucking and auto litigation, medical malpractice, civil rights, and public police brutality. Attorney Jackson's reputation as a relentless fighter for justice is well earned. His work extends beyond the courtroom into significant roles within the community and professional spheres. Notably, he has served as legal advisor to prominent figures and organizations including Don King Productions and Monarch and Excel Sports Management. His dedication to both his clients and his community is evident in his extensive volunteer work and advocacy, including his past role as co-chair of the Legal Redress Committee for a Cleveland chapter of the NAACP. Tonight, Attorney Jackson speaks with profound insight and experience as he addresses police pursuit policy, a topic of critical importance given the tragic loss of 13-year-old Tamia Chapman in a police chase in December of 2020. His commitment to justice and his deep-rooted involvement in Northeast Ohio community make him a central voice and very important in this discussion. Please join me for welcoming Attorney Stanley Jackson.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Let's give a round of applause to this organization for its commitment to our community and making it better. So I'm here today, and it's a privilege and honor to be here to speak to you guys about the importance of reviewing and determining if police chases or pursuits should happen, and the policy that is before us. So I've had the pleasure of being at the Cochran firm for over 6 years. I'm the managing partner at the Cochran firm. As you guys very well know, Johnny Cochran was the first attorney to have a civil rights case, the Detwilder case. It's an honor and privilege to be an attorney at that firm with over 33 offices. We have taken it upon ourselves nationally to pursue, pun intended, police pursuits throughout the country. So we have a group of lawyers who are reviewing those all over the country to make sure that we can put an end to ill-advised police pursuits, because we are committed to fighting for families and loved ones that have been lost in this senseless phenomena. I call it a phenomena because I don't believe that it should continue to exist in the way that it does. But I know I'm limited with time, so I'll just speak with you from experience. So oftentimes when we are looking at pursuits, our concern is first and foremost the families and the communities that are affected. And in almost every situation, what you will find is that it happens in a community not like Beechwood, but more like Cleveland. How much more clear can I be? It happens in disadvantaged neighborhoods. Police pursuits almost never happen in Pepper Pike or Avon Lake. They happen in communities where, unfortunately, our children and our families are busy up and down the streets. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but we kind of know what those reasons are to some extent without saying. I don't want to belabor on the detail of why. I could give you, I could come here with 100 slides. I could give you all these statistics. One of the things that people do when they want you to think about something in a way that is congruent or in agreement with what they want you to believe or think is that they find statistics that are best for their story. The reality is it doesn't matter what the statistics are when we lose people like Tamia Chapman, right? When we lose a variety of other people that we've lost in our community for these chases. There's no statistic that can ever change the fact that they are gone. There's no statistic that can change the fact that in every one of those situations, those chases should have been terminated before those loved ones' lives were terminated. So I'm here because I want to make sure that we humanize what we're talking about, right? Oftentimes and I'll save my time later for rebuttal on the actual Cleveland pursuit, but I want to be general in the sense that when we talk about the chase, oftentimes it's pursuit for something that is less valuable than a human life. And oftentimes you're going to continue to hear that there's this, we're stopping something from happening. There's going to be another criminal act if we don't catch them right now, the urgency in doing that. And the unfortunate part is that that's an unknown. Or if it is a known, right? If you know that much information and you know who that individual is because you know they're going to commit another crime, then there's no point to chase them because then you have information on them. And so you don't have to catch them at that moment. You can catch them at another moment, right? The only reason they're going 100 miles an hour is because they're trying to get away from you. The interesting part about policies are the policies aren't written for the criminal or the person fleeing. The policies are written for the officers, for the department, for the supervisors, to make sure that they follow their own policy so that lives aren't lost. So it doesn't matter, we could have 100 pages here. If the officers don't know it, if the officers don't apply it, the supervisors don't know it and apply it, if the supervisors aren't holding the individuals or the officers who are involved in the pursuit accountable, if the mayor isn't holding the chief accountable, if the city isn't holding the mayor accountable, then it doesn't matter what we do with this policy. So I want you to understand in almost every situation, we could go through 100 departments, and I can guarantee you, they have a policy that if you, on the face you look at it and you go, okay, I see, okay. If the fleeing suspect presents an immediate danger and the pursuit is less than immediate or the potential danger to the public, if the suspect remains at large, there's a determination that has to be made. If I'm going 100 miles an hour down Euclid with kids getting out of school, there's a high probability that either I, as the officer, or the fleeing suspect may lose control of that car. There's a high probability that people who are in the middle of the day who are coming out in rush hour school can be killed in that moment. So I go back to the policy, the chase. I go back to really the culture of understanding that if we want to change, we have to hold the police departments, we have to hold the politicians accountable for the culture. The culture says, hey, we need to catch these individuals, Dukes and Hazards. We need to get them. The culture should be, we want everyone to be safe, including the innocent bystanders that almost always end up dying in those chases. That no one's life is worth catching Dahmer or catching a serial killer. No one's life is worth that, right? No one's life is worth, if I catch this guy who's going to commit 10 other crimes, to me his life wasn't worth actually maybe capturing one of those individuals who were in that pursuit, because their life was lost. She should not have had to sacrifice for that. Everyone who has died in these chases should not have to sacrifice for the pursuit of a suspect. So I just want you to, when we think about that, when we have that discussion today, and we think about a policy. Now, I want to get to the second part, the policy. We can write, we can look through this, we can come up with, maybe the policy's too long. Maybe the policy isn't direct. Maybe the policy needs to have more direct punishment. Maybe there needs to be a commission to make sure that officers are punished. The reality is that there's three things that always happen in these pursuits. And you could close your eyes and name those three things, and you're always going to find them in these pursuits. You're going to find a supervisor that more than likely doesn't understand or know the policy, which has been consistent in Cleveland, if we're being honest. You're going to find no training, no consistent training of the supervisor and or the officers who are involved in these pursuits. Okay, that's the second failure. And then you're going to find no accountability. No one willing to do what they need to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So start with not knowing the policy. The reality is that what we found throughout the country, and specifically here in Cleveland, is that when asked, the supervisors don't know the policy, okay? They don't know what they should and should not be doing. They don't know what equipment they need to be using or must be using, okay? And they don't know, most of the time, they don't know who is supposed to be supervising the chase. So I know I have a limited amount of time, so I'm going to move to the next step. The next step is the officers. If your supervisor doesn't know it, he can't make sure that you know it, right? But what we found is that officers, they learn emergency driving in the police academy, but there's no follow-up pursuit or emergency driving course while they're officers. So they have these classes that officers have to take periodically to make sure that they're up to par, right? And there's videos that they look through and so on and so forth, but never do they have to actually go through a training where consistently, every couple of years or every year, hey, this is what it's like when you have to do a pit maneuver, or this is what happens when you're in a chase, and this is what you need to do. You need to, if you see the guy running up, disobeying stop signs and putting the public at risk, you want to terminate it, right? Most of the time, the officers, they don't know that because they haven't been through it the first time they come through the academy and get hired by whatever police department. They get the policy, they're supposed to review it, they do a simple test. If you see the test, it's laughable. And then they're on the street, right? So there's no follow-up to make sure that they understand it. Almost always they're going to have an opportunity, they're going to be in this position where they may be in a vehicle pursuit. And this is the most dangerous, this is one of the most dangerous situations that the officers can be in, not only for the community, but for themselves. So that should happen. And then lastly, accountability. When all else fails and the policy isn't followed, the supervisor doesn't know the policy, there's no accountability, right? I think we've come to a moment in our community where we need accountability. There will not be any trust between the community and the police until the police will hold their own accountable, and or this committee is able to continue to do their work and given an opportunity and get cases where they can hold officers accountable. So lastly, I want to end with this. the interesting part is that we often promote officers in rank, and we get supervisors who are in the department. And what we realize in our department here is that something is broken, right? So I'm learning from someone who has learned from someone else, and we're not getting it right. We need to be honest with ourselves and think outside the box. If we do the same things that we've always done, we're going to get the same result. We need to start thinking about, and I'll liken it to this. There's a football team, Cleveland Browns, they lose every year. Why would the Raiders hire someone from the, not this year, I'm saying in previous years. Why would someone hire someone from that coaching tree? It's been proven that it doesn't work. In Cleveland, we're under a consent decree. It's proven that what we're doing doesn't work. So why would we keep hiring individuals within the department and expect this new order of policing, this newfound way of community policing, when it's never worked, and the people who trained them, the people who mentored them, the people who taught them didn't get it right. So how do we expect them from the same tree to get it right? We have to, the mayor said something that I hope that one day he will stand on. Bold. We need to be bold. Bold means hiring someone not from Cleveland, hiring someone who's been in the trenches somewhere else who understands. We have all this money and technology, and we still keep doing the same things. We have a Cleveland Police Department that we don't have any helicopters. We don't have certain things that we should have as a major city. That's a whole nother conversation maybe for city council, the mayor. I don't want to put anyone on right now. But the point is, and the mayor, the administration, but the point is, we have to do something different. The commission is different. Police department's the same. We're still under consent decree. That should be alarming. We're no further along. We can't talk our way out of this. It's going to be painful to get out of it throughout the country. Anytime you see what happened in Baltimore, you see any growth and you see the police departments changing for the better, there was some change, but there was some pain in that change. And we're going to lose some people along the way. But if we want to be a better community, as the mayor said, Cleveland can't wait. We can't wait. And the other thing he said is we need to be bold. So let's hold, and the last thing I'm going to say is we need to hold everyone accountable. Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Jackson. I just want to remind everyone very quickly that we do have light refreshments over in the window area. Everyone is welcome to grab something to drink and something to snack on. We're going to continue with someone from the Cleveland Police Department, Captain Simon. Thank you.
Just a brief introduction of myself. I'm Captain Rob Simon. I've been a Cleveland police officer for 30 years. Thank you. For the last 8 of those years, I have been working on the consent decree, our policies connected to the consent decree, and with the CPC, specifically with their policy committee, as we kind of work through community input into our policies to make our policies better. That's all the division wants. We want the best policies in the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do you want to say something? Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to the discussion period of our event. So this is a time where if anyone in the audience has a question or has a comment, they can come up.
Here. Is that messing with where the camera is? I can move it back? All right. Just as you come up, you can adjust it for your height. You don't have to stand on your tiptoes or, so, but it should be good.
Okay, so I have a comment and then I have a question. My first comment is if we're going to hold the City of Cleveland police officers to a standard of not chasing, I would like for you all to instill something where other cities can't come into Cleveland. Because lately, it's been other cities that are coming into our city and killing our residents. They're chasing, they're doing whatever, and our officers have to sit back and watch it happen while we are being mowed down on the road. And I want it done ASAP because I'm over it. I'm over minding my business, and then there's a police chase, and then I'm looking at the cars, and it don't say nothing like the City of Cleveland. It's saying everybody but them. And I'm frustrated because it puts us in peril. When you're in the middle of a chase and you're not the one running from the police, you're an innocent bystander, you're paralyzed. You don't know which way to get out of the way. You don't know who. Everybody else is there. We're all confused. We're all discombobulated because we don't know where to go. We are over, but the person running is coming over by us. So I would like that in order to make it a fair playing field, because if we're going to have the city not chase, I want people not to come into our city and not chase. And so the question I do have regarding chasing has to do with standards or what we feel we're chasing for. I don't want you chasing for cars. You should have insurance. I'm sorry your car is stolen. I will hate for mine. I'm going to be just as petty and upset. But I do not want you chasing for cars that are stolen because you are costing people their lives. I just feel that way. Murder is a whole nother thing. I'm gonna need you to chase them. I'm gonna need you to mow them down, do whatever you gotta do to get rid of them, but I'm gonna need you to catch them. So my question for you all is that while you're putting this together, will you consider the standard of chase? And two, will you please implement something so our suburban communities can stop running into our city doing their thing? And when they leave destruction. They don't clean it up. Poles be tore down. I'm gonna need them to pay for the pole. I'm gonna need to pay for whatever they do to us when they come into our city. And they are coming into the poorest part of the city when they're chasing. They're not cutting through the most expensive parts of the city. They're killing us at the end. So that's what I wanted to ask.
We have had in our policies for quite some time, we do have a standard that police officers are only permitted to pursue if there is a violent felony involved. That is rape, that is murder. If your license plate is expired and you run, have at it. We're not going to chase you. So we only chase for violent felonies. Under our old policy, it also mentioned OVIs, because folks who are drunk, let's face it, they kill a lot of people. We did make one change in this new policy, which kind of addresses a problem we've been having. I know you know all over the country, folks are losing respect for the police. Rightly, wrongly, it's not for me to say. But when they're circling our zone cars and our officers are afraid to pointing guns at our police officers and they feel handcuffed and can't respond because of the limitations of the policy, that was kind of a problem. In discussions we've had, those are all violent felonies. You point a gun at a police officer, I consider that a violent felony. Councilman, I'm sure you do as well. So we did adjust the section so that officers, if they have, if a suspect presents a clear and immediate threat of death or serious injury to others, then they can pursue. It opens it up a little more than just that OVI. So if you're pointing a gun at a police officer, he's going to chase you. But there are standards. The policy, the revisions we made, I know they have Superintendent Vilans. When he was the Inspector General, he did a very lengthy review of our pursuit policy, made a great deal of recommendations. It's over 40 pages long. When we worked on revising this policy, we used that report as kind of a guide stone. Many, if not all, of his recommendations were included in this policy. So we do have a standard. You will find it's in line with most other police departments across the country, if not more restrictive. We don't want our officers chasing for silly turn signals, things like that. They're not permitted to. The policy requires them to continuously assess why they're chasing someone, taking into account things that were mentioned. Is it school letting out? Is it rush hour? What's the weather like? What is the ability of the vehicle you're chasing? Because if you're driving a hoopty, and that can be more dangerous if we chase you than if we just let you go. So it's got to be a violent felony. It's got to be something serious before we're going to chase you. I don't know all of the statistics. I do know our pursuits are down over the last 3 years continually.
But what about the cities,
Other cities, unfortunately, as a captain with the Cleveland Police Department, I don't have a lot of pull in that area. That's something that the city of Cleveland would have to address with those other suburbs.
Can I go? All right. What I'll tell you, just to answer that question really quickly, I'm involved in some other cases throughout the city, and Cleveland hasn't, CDP hasn't told anyone this, but they've told other police departments that they will not assist in chase.
They don't.
They do not. They do not.
But it's the other cities that are causing the calamity. They're the ones causing the wrecks, the death, the whole nine. They're tearing up poles.
And Palmer is one of them.
They're chasing after you. It's ridiculous. It's a stolen car.
I understand, but I also want to address the other, something was mentioned about violent felony. So sometimes when you are, I'm a lawyer, so when we craft things, sometimes we leave the ambiguity on purpose. So for example, if you're going to say violent felony, if you turn, for anyone who has the policy, we turn to page 3, if you're going to say violent felony, sometimes, and other examples sometimes other examples that are throughout this policy, they'll give you examples. Like if you go down to section C, it says weather time delay, and it'll go, i.e., schools, parks, playgrounds, venues. Well, violent felony, it would probably be helpful. It would probably be helpful if those violent felonies were enumerated here, right? Oftentimes, the violent felonies, to be frankly honest with you, are carjackings. But are they really violent? Because the reality is that they're violent, but is the threat still there after they're already in the car? They may have used a gun to carjack someone, but they're now in the car. The person they carjacked is not in the car with them.
Does that mean that gun is safe after you finish the carjacking? Does that mean that the gun is safe?
No, it's not about the gun being safe. It's
It's
about
about the person behind the gun and who you're trying to pursue, right?
I agree with you on that, but the
Okay,
person,
then-
well,
They can't hear you, like, so it's a public meeting, most people want to hear, so you have to come to the mic, or we have to bring it to
No,
you. We wanna
let's
make
bring
sure-
this up next.
Okay, but so we can't interrupt, because we want to make sure that the full public can hear everything that happens at the meeting.
to answer that, it goes back to the fact that the person who has already committed the crime is now leaving in a car, right? And so the person that they carjacked is no longer threatened. So the threat there is gone. They're in a car and they're leaving to go somewhere else. They're not threatening or shooting anyone in the car. Now, if they're driving down the street and they're pointing the gun and they're looking to harm someone else in that moment, but now they use the violence to get the car, they're on their way somewhere else, right? But to wherever they're going, okay, the reality is to pursue them at high rates. Yes, of course, no one's saying that you shouldn't pursue them, but when it gets to the point where you're driving 100 miles an hour and you're going in between school districts, at some point it has to be terminated. And so we're not suggesting that there shouldn't be any pursuits. We're saying merely, we have all this talk about a policy, but a policy is only as good as the person who is interpreting it and using it. So if we don't have officers well equipped, and I know that our officers mean well, they want to serve and protect. So let's not take that away from them. I'm not taking it away from them. I've known Calvin Williams all my life. He's a good friend of my family. He was actually one of my dad's best friends. But in this particular circumstance with Tamia and some other situations, it was wrong. The supervisors didn't do what they were supposed to do. I'm just saying in these situations, all I'm suggesting is that we need to equip our officers with more training of the policy so they can be prepared, our supervisors so they can make a determination. Because they don't want, no officer wants to go out and be involved in a police chase that ends in someone dying. They're given, I mean, I'm thankful for their service too. They're out there trying to make sure that we're all safe. These officers could die in the chase. We don't want them to get injured either. So the point is equip them with more training and more opportunities so they understand, because in the heat of the moment, sometimes they make decisions because of the adrenaline. The supervisor should be there to say, hey, you know what? You probably don't notice how fast you're going, but you're in this area. We need to terminate. We want them to continue to protect and service. We're thankful for their service, but we also don't want them to get hurt, and we don't want anyone else in the community to get hurt and killed.
To answer the questions, and also for folks, I see some folks raising hands. What I would suggest is that you can come up to the front, sit in some of these front seats. That way you'll be kind of in line to make a comment. My name is Chandra Benito. I'm one of the commissioners and also one of the members of the Police Policy Committee and this work group on vehicle pursuits. To answer your question, so absolutely one of the things that we'll be looking at and the questions that we'll be making some decisions on in the policy are what the standard is for whether officers should chase, as both Captain Simon and oh my gosh, Mr. Jackson, Attorney Jackson just explained. The other thing regarding the other precincts chasing into the city of Cleveland. So this GPO can only tell our officers what they can do. So in terms of how we would set a standard for what other officers can do in the city, that would have to be a legislative action that would have to be undertaken by the city of Cleveland, is my understanding. So that would be a question to bring up to the mayor and to city council, because oh yeah, in the city of East Cleveland, did they?
Yes.
Yeah, so in East Cleveland, there's Tamia's Law, which prevents officers from other cities from chasing within those cities. So that would have to be something that would be undertaken by the city. And yeah, so I'll just end there.
And if I could just add one other thing, he mentioned we need to know what a violent felony is. Well, the division thought that term was so important, we actually included it in the definitions. So it's defined in the policy what a violent felony is.
And I'll also add, so one thing that this GPO can tell us is whether our officers can chase in other cities. So that's one thing that this GPO can cover as well. And that's also all things that we want to hear your feedback on. What do you guys think the standard should be? Do you think officers should be chasing in other cities? And this is why we're having this event, so we can hear from you about what you think that should be.
What's the date you need that by? What date do you need that by?
Well, I'll be talking a little later about the work group that we're having, but there's on the table, there's a piece of paper that has a survey on it with a QR code. So you can fill that out, but we would love feedback. I think by the end of August would be the most helpful, so that we can incorporate it into our GPO process.
Good evening.
Good evening.
A couple of things, I want to say a couple of things. When Mr. Jackson was talking, he talked about more training and more training on those high-speed chases. The supervisors need to learn that. And they need to find a place in Cleveland or outside of Cleveland where they can go and do stimulation of chasing and just do it constantly so they'll know how to deal with a chase. Number two, and I'm glad, Pulisic, you are here. The consent decree does not tell the police officers, Captain Simon, not to do their job. It doesn't say that in the 100 pages. But you guys keep saying they're limited, they're handcuffed. I hear this from counsel all the time, that the police say they're limited, they're handcuffed, they can't do their job because they're scared of this, they're scared of that. Get past that, put your big pants on. You wear a gun that's loaded with live rounds and a badge that says the Cleveland Police Department. Let's get beyond that. There's good officers out here. Officer Ritter did everything that stood for the consent decree, and he was murdered. And that's wrong. And I'm going to speak on that too. So at the end of the day, I want the Cleveland Police to stop saying you cannot do your job. Just do a better job. Supervisors with these white shirts on, you need to be disciplined if you're not teaching these officers to follow these policies because they're confused. And I'm out there talking to them too. A lot of them don't agree with me, but they talk to me. And let me tell you something else. When you're out there doing the job, you got to observe. You know why I dress down as a private investigator and wear wigs? I get information. And I slide in places that other ones can't go. And Mr. Jackson know that because I've done work for him. And I come back safe because I observe and I pay attention and I get a lot of training from those lawyers. I trained 4 years first before I even came out in the field. And I'm always training all the time because the laws is always changing. So I got to know them to do a good investigation. So this is what I would like to see. My brother was killed by the police. My dad was a cop. My cousin was on the force. You knew who he was. He passed away. I have a sister that's a police officer in PA. So officers are in my family. I'm not a hater on police. I just want them to do a great job because I know they can. And I want them to get paid good money. But I want you to perform.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
First of all, sir, you said some things I agree with as far as training, and you can't put a price on that. I mean, you got to train in order to be the best. You're right. You got to get the best training. But there's some circumstances that training can never teach you. Only thing it teach you is how to control a car while you're driving fast. Okay, the person's a threat because he put a gun. The gun's not the threat. The person behind is the threat. And as long as he got that threat, you said, well, we have his plate information. Yeah, what if that car is stolen? Now, just like he stuck a gun in my face, he may stick a gun in somebody else's face. And my heart goes out to everybody who's lost someone, especially with the police involved. I mean, it's disheartening for the police officers, for the citizens. It really tears my heart up. But the culture is what's got to change, along with the culture of the police. Because yes, the police department, there is corruption. I don't know it, but they may, I'm not naive either. But there's corruption in all fields, whether it be a police, whether it be a reporter, whether it be an attorney, okay, whether it be a councilman, I don't know. Okay, people that can't. But these training on these chases, they don't give you no real live, okay? They don't put the variables, or that's what? Like, okay, 3 o'clock, school's out, maybe I shouldn't chase them. Yeah, that's easy. Okay, what if it's 7 o'clock at night and somebody's crossing the street to get to Lakeshore Boulevard? The cop is chasing the guy. You think the guy's gonna say, oh, somebody's crossing, let me slow down? And I tell everybody, 3 things gonna happen on a police chase. 2 of them are bad. Okay, you're gonna get caught or you're gonna hurt yourself or somebody else. The good thing is, guess what, you may get away. But guess what? The odds are against you. Now, you mentioned the chief taking over from inner department. You mean to tell me that a young police officer who's dedicated to his community, goes through the ranks, goes to college, right? Takes the training, supervisor training, takes the initiative to say, guess what? I'm going to put myself and my family in a better position, shouldn't be police chief because he came from that. That's almost like saying the public defender. It's almost like I watch Suits. It's almost like saying the little lady, the paralegal, could never be the lawyer because she can't own the firm because she was a paralegal once. It's kind of like insane, you know, like, then why work towards that goal? If I can't one day be up top to make decisions, because I was told in order to make decisions, you have to be out on the table. You got to be at the table in order to make these decisions. So if I'm making all my ranks and all of a sudden I can't be chief because I came from within the department, doesn't seem fair to me. Okay? Another thing, these police pursuits, like you said, nobody wants to. I don't think they go out and say, guess what, I'm going to catch them. But it's a matter of life safety. Now, we put these police officers, we put a lot on them, a lot of trust. Keep me safe, because this community we got and this culture we got is horrible. What I would like to see, I haven't seen no officers walking the beat. Okay? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I live right up the street. My neighbor is a police officer, and yes, he comes by and he chums. He grew up with my children. He comes by and he walks through. Everybody know him. Everybody know Jordan because Jordan grew up from these streets. But with that mentality you just spoke on, Jordan will never get a chance to be police chief, according to what you said. But Jordan's a good kid. Jordan's a good officer. He cares. He knows. He makes good decisions, and he's been trained well. And it's just the culture. I think our culture on the street as citizens and the police culture. Guess what? We got to get back to the basics. Guess what? I like going through the store. When I go to the store, I like to know who my cashier is. I'm not going to do the automatic scan. Hey, how you doing, Jessica? Hey, James, how you doing? Okay, I'm good, blah, blah, blah. Don't know him, probably won't remember him, but I made that connection. And that's what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I address that? Yeah. So I think those comments are wonderful. I agree with you, most of the comments, but I think that, once again, if there's an organization that has consistently failed, right, and they fail to the point that there is federal intervention, then that means that from the top down, those individuals have not been doing what they need to do to not have federal intervention.
Sir, that can be said about any organization, is what I'm saying. That can be said about anything. The library, okay? She failed. The police today. I understand, but what you're saying is a too broad a statement.
If you give me a moment, I'll get to the point. The point is, if it's not working from the top down, not the gentleman who's walking down the street doing what he's supposed to do because he gets trained and supervised. The people who are responsible for training and supervising him, there needs to be a change there so that we can have different ways, new ways of attacking the same problem. You can't have the same solution to the same problem and hope that it works. The criminals, the suspects, the people that we're pursuing, they keep evolving. We're not evolving in the way that they are. That's why we have the issues that we have. We can't continue to attack it the same way that we've been attacking it because we're going to end up with the same result. We keep getting the same result. So it's kind of like, hey, if we keep doing the same thing, we can't talk about, well, maybe we need to do it more or maybe we need to try harder. It's not working. All I'm suggesting is let's try bringing in a proven winning situation from another community to help us with our situation. And that training, yes, of course, I agree with you. Someone homegrown who knows the community, who loves our community, who's committed to our community. I don't think that any one of the officers from the administration down is not committed to us. I know that they are. We know that they are. But the solutions, they only have a finite amount of solutions that they have amongst themselves. Or the other option is to send them somewhere else so they can get training, to get new ideas and make relationships and other opportunities so that we can grow as a community. I'm not going anywhere, you're not going anywhere. We want collectively, and that's why it's called community policing. We have to do this together. So all I'm suggesting is that we find other ways than what we've been doing. Changing policy isn't it, right? Well, we're gonna have a new policy. We're gonna have a new policy and a new policy. But the policy is only as good as the people who are implementing it. And all I'm suggesting is that we find new, bold ways to attack this, and it's gotta come from outside of our community. Because if it was gonna come from inside the community, we would have had it by now. We've been in this too long, and we know, Browns, it took us to go hire someone else outside of that regime, and now we have better results. We need to do the same with something that matters to us, our community, our police. Thank you.
Hey, how you doing? This is going back to the police chasing, like what you was talking about earlier. February 19th, my son was on his way to work, went to make a left-hand turn on 130th and Gilmore, but didn't make the turn. The cop got behind him, chased him. My son died, he hit his semi. And 6 months today was aired on Channel 5 at 6 o'clock today. But the bottom line is it wasn't called in, no video cam, no nothing. It never showed the cop car that was actually behind my son pulling up to the scene of the crime. He hit the semi, he died instantly, and I never got to reach out from nobody. I never got to reach a text or an officer coming, give me sympathy or anything. It's just like, it's just nothing, He's on his way to work. This is him right here, 39 years old, on his way to work. He went to make a left-hand turn, but he didn't. He stopped, and then he went straight. But the cop on 130th, he's there every day, 5 hours a day, writing out tickets. It's a money scam. I got a ticket there in 1980. My sister-in-law got it in 1990. She lives on Gilmore. Why not put a video camera up or something like that? You hear about all these cops are so late coming to calls, 5 hours late and stuff like that, but you will pay him 5 hours to sit in his car to do something like this. And all he did was he was just on his way to work. He went to make the turn, but he didn't make the turn. And the cop don't call it in, no video cam, nothing. It's just like he killed my son, but nothing. But what happens to him? Nothing. Nobody's ever reached out to me, to my wife, nothing. And his 6 kids, it's just terrible, I mean, all he was doing was on his way to work. That was it,
When did you say this happened? I'm sorry.
It happened February 19th.
This year?
Yeah, on 117th in Memphis and Bel Air. This was him. It was aired on TV at 6 o'clock. Tara from Channel 5 News been working with me the whole time. I had 2 investigators on it. Still ain't found nothing. She gets a hold of the police and stuff like that. They said they're still working on it. It's been 6 months. There's nothing. But, we don't get no condolences. We don't get nothing. We don't get a call. We don't get a cop coming up to my house or nothing. Just like he's gone, it's okay. But meanwhile, that cop, if you ask me, he killed my son. All he was doing was making a turn, and he didn't make the turn. He stopped, and he went straight, and he still chased him. And he hit a semi and died instantly. So, I just think it's all terrible, You should change the law then, but what you said about them going after murderers and stuff like that, that's fine. But, all he was doing was making a turn. It's just a money scam where they're at right there. It's been there for 30 years, 40 years. Why are you paying the cop to sit there for? Put a camera there if that's what you want to do, is make money on people making that turn. It's just, I lost faith in the system. That's all I got to say.
I do want to ask you this. Did you ever make a complaint to OPS
No, I had
about violation of policy?
No, I got a lawyer on it, and I got 2 investigators. I'm pretty sure they did everything on that, because they told me once I hired them, they said there's nothing I could do. They will do all the work.
Okay.
But, it's been 6 months today, and they just aired it again today, and it's nothing. I mean, not even a call, you know, I mean, it's like they don't, you know, who are we? You know, but all he was doing was going to work, and he didn't make the turn. He straightened his car up, and he went straight the way he was supposed to, but he still got behind him and pulled him over. But his buddy was behind him going and following him to work, and his buddy told me, and he told the news, that all the cop did was just put the sirens on right at the beginning. Woo! But my son kept moving. He says the rest of the way, all the way up to Bel Air and 130th, all they had was just the cherries on, no sirens. So I don't know if my son, if they turned them on once they hit Bel Air or what was going on. We still don't know when the cop stopped the chase. No one's ever told us when he stopped the chase. But the cop that was chasing him, he doesn't even arrive to the scene. First it was Lindale that got there, then Highway Patrol. You would think he would have been there. He was right behind him, you know? To me, it's a big cover-up. He never called it in, no video bit, no nothing like that. And what I understand from my investigator, how they found out he really was in the system, the area is the GPS on the car. That's how they found out that he was in that area. As far as I'm concerned, it was all like a denial thing. It's just a cover-up.
Sir, it's called AVL, but
Okay.
yeah, AVL.
It's just a cover-up system,
Yeah.
you know? You're just covering up for the cop. That cop killed my son, if you ask me,
Sorry for your loss.
you know? But, you know, and his 6 kids got to live without their dad now, just for going to work, you know, that's all. And I know the reason why my son probably didn't pull over is because he didn't want his car to get impounded, you know? Take down the license plate and come knock on his door later and give him a ticket, or do what you got to do, you know? Don't chase him for not doing nothing, you know? He didn't even break the law, you know? I lost faith in the system. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, sir. I just, yeah. Excuse me, sir. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. I'm so sorry for your loss. I also want you to know 2 things. One is that our staff is happy to talk to you and walk you through kind of what the different processes are. But one thing I want to let you know is there's 2 ways or one of the big ways that you can get this investigated is filing a complaint with the Office of Professional Standards. Our staff would be happy to explain that process to you, to support you kind of figuring that out and making a complaint. And then you would have an investigator from the Office of Professional Standards. They would do a full investigation into it, and then it would go to the Civilian Police Review Board. So I just want to make sure that you know that, but also could our staff raise their hands there you go. So talk to any of these folks that have their hands raised, and they would be happy to get with you and to explain the process and see what kind of support we can offer. But I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you.
Good evening. How you all doing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to say, what happened to the Cleveland police chopper? The helicopter?
We still have it.
You still have it?
We do.
Why they don't use that a lot in these crimes that are going on? Because I live right here on Lake Shore, and I have seen Euclid come through with these big SUVs, people in wheelchairs, and they don't slow down, okay? And anytime you chasing someone in a car, you know they're gonna continue to drive reckless to try to get away from the police. So by having the helicopter in the air and following and letting the police know where the car is going, to me that'll be more safer. Because like the gentleman said, this culture we have today, they don't care. And everything starts at home. Okay, I can't fault the police because you can't raise other people's kids. Okay, but everything starts at home. Okay, and a lot of people got a lot of evil in them instead of good. We living in some dangerous times where people don't care. And what I'm saying to you all is, use the helicopter.
I know we have the helicopter, and we do use the helicopter. It does go up. I don't know, I'm not familiar with the unit, working out of the Justice Center downtown. I'm not familiar with the parameters of when they use it, but I do know we also partner with the State Patrol. And we
Okay.
do use their helicopter as well.
Okay.
And it is part of our policy, has been, that if the chopper is up and the chopper is able to assist with the pursuit, then the zone cars back off. The chopper becomes the primary pursuit, and the cars just kind of stay in the area if the pursuit eventually ends or they stop. Or
Because I am not against the police chasing, but when it becomes to people losing their lives, then it's dangerous. But I don't say the police is wrong, it's the criminal who starts to act. That's who's wrong. But if y'all can get this helicopter up in the air and follow people, it'll be a little more safer. But then I believe in a universal system, meaning Euclid, Cleveland Heights, all y'all should be on the same page where you can radio the next city where a car is coming and block them off.
we do have protocols in the policy. We don't have direct communication with them all the time with the suburbs, but we contact our dispatch, who contacts their dispatch, who contacts their officers when we know we're headed toward that suburb. As far as roadblocks, that's kind of an iffy thing under state law. We're required by state law, if we're going to block, we have to leave them a way out. We
Wow.
can't completely block the road. State law requires us to leave them a way that they can travel through at a slower speed.
Okay, yeah. Well, y'all keep on just trying to do what's right.
I can shed a little light on that since I've been dealing with the CDP and at least the Tamia Chapman case for the last 4 years. I think part of the issue maybe with CDP and some of the things we want is that maybe they're not funded in the way that they should be. And so just being fair, you know, we have to hold our politicians, he's not here, but we have to hold our politicians accountable about making sure that they're well funded. What I found is that in our research, some of the tools that they have, they may not have the funds. We want officers to be out there walking the beat. We want more officers. We've got to provide more money. And, you know, we want our, you know, I think, but also there's a flip side to that. It has to be better managed. But I think from our research, Cleveland Police Department is not funded in the way that it should be. I'm going to be frank with you. They want to do the work. I know that. I've seen it. I've seen the reports. The chopper can't fly if we don't have the funds to continue to hire the individuals who are going to do it. And we need multiple ones. So we need to, you know, we got to be able to make that happen to make sure that they have that opportunity.
Well, the DOJ should be able to do that. If they can fund people to smoke marijuana, to come out here and drive these cars reckless and kill people when they shouldn't pass a law. You stay in your house and smoke it, okay? But you come out here on the street and smoke it and endanger my family life or someone else's family life. They should be able to help y'all come up with some money. The federal government should do something, okay? Because to me, a police is a profession. It's a profession. And I'm not gonna look at you guys wrong when something go on, because like I say, if a person don't start the criminal act, you all won't have to pursue it.
Okay. I kind of lost my train of thought from while listening to all of this, but yes, but I don't believe that the police need more money. I don't believe, like you said, it needs to be managed better. It's a lot of corruption within the police organization. I'm a victim of police brutality, so I know how it goes. I've talked to everybody to the top, all the way. Now I'm going on a federal level, writing them, telling them what's going on and can I get some help. But it begins with the cultural, just like the young man said here. The behavior must be, you need more training for the police, and the cultural must change. And the way you do that is from the top. The top has to make sure that everybody is on board with what they're teaching them, what they're out here training to do. And then when they mess up, well, then they need to bring them in and call them out and say, look, you know, you have to change. But it's a behavior change. It's the cultural. That's where we need to begin. No more money. No, you don't get any more money until you do better. until you do better. And so I think people need to come together. Me as an individual, nothing happens. Him as an individual, nothing has happened. But if we can join forces together in an organization and, you know, speak up, this is all well and good. They like to hear this, but we're not together as unified. But if we stand together, you know, all of these circumstances, things will change. And so I'm asking you guys to come together, sign your name, help out when we're talking about the police. Everything is about the police and their culture and changing that culture. And if we can do that, we can make a difference. So let's consider that. Let's sign. I started an organization called Stop Rape, Stop Crime, Help People. And it's free to join. And it's just to keep you guys informed, to help ladies with self-defense classes and for education. So, you know, please, let's come together, let's join this organization or another organization, and we all come together collectively to make a change in the police culture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, good evening, everybody. My name is Lou. There are certain valid points people have addressed. I would like to put that into a little bit more detail for you to consider to incorporate. City has, year after year, the biggest budget item is on police. But the consent decree, this is not the first consent decree City of Cleveland has ever had. The problem here is exactly what that lady said also. Do you really think the police need more money? No, actually it's not. For the people who has been looking at the budget or doing some work with budget, any kind of budget, the important part is the devil is in the detail, which is the one we call line items. Why we do not have a funding going to the line items of helicopters or the operator of helicopters instead of having line item on some other things which actually could cause the side effects of waste. So that's what people actually can make effort on. When we talk about city budget, please, don't just sit there and say, oh, definitely corruption. Yes, we know there's corruption. But to correct the corruption, we are also accountable to make an effort because we reside in the city of Cleveland. So when you see the budget, please look at the line items for police budget. If you find out something defeats the purpose of safety and create waste, you have to come out to the meetings, to the budget meeting in the city hall, or sending documents through email or whatever. That's one thing. The other thing, for this particular policy, exactly to Mr. Jackson's point, criminals are involved, but the police and the ordinary citizens has not been involved with the same speed or the same comprehension as the criminals. So why we have only a GPO to talk about car chasing for CDP? Consent decree is put on City of Cleveland, correct. But inside the City of Cleveland, we have all kinds of police department. So if CDP does everything right, hypothetically, you may have a car chasing from Cuyahoga County Metropolitan Housing Authority, their car is chasing. Cleveland State University, Case Western Reserve University, even Tri-C, the community college, they have a police too, and they have a vehicle too. Within City of Cleveland, we not only have units of cars, we have units, they are on horses, on bicycles, they can also pursue. So why we want to put out a policy which has so many flaws, not evolved, not updated to the current reality? That may do some prevention, but it does take more work. And definitely, I'm willing to be in the work group to add all these safety features in. So in that case, even CDP can do perfect job, but we can also prevent all other police departments. Either they chase inside, come inside of Cleveland, or they also physically inside of Cleveland, they have to follow the same. Because CDP follows the rules, that doesn't mean all other suburb cities, police officers, they follow rules. And the other problem is, how many officers actually know the rules? The training stopped at academy, and one thing in the police department we found out, every time when we offer them opportunity of different training, they always tell us, we do not have enough time to train these people. As one of the gentlemen already mentioned, training should be continuous, never stopped. It should be part of their basic duties. Do not think that taking an hour to go to another location, sitting in a classroom, is the only training we can do. As the other lady already suggests, sometimes you can do reality simulations. You do have to find an area. Let them drive on the same roads, but not heavy traffic areas, to do certain things, and see if they really understand what the lecture, doesn't matter online or in person, they really comprehend it, or they just sit here listening when they are so tired. Our police officers need better food and sleeping hours to really get their health up. So no matter when they are out on duty or sitting inside to do paperwork, they have energy. They can comprehend what they are doing. And they can remember each new experience they received and put that into them. They can love the job, but they do need help. We are willing to. The whole community are willing to, because we want our safety. We don't want just the residents safe. We want the officer not to get into life and death troubles or without a good cause. Sure, there are hardcore criminals. So for you to sign up to be a police officer, you know there are certain dangers you should be in. And we appreciate you can be brave enough to take that. But when you go through daily routines, we are willing to support. But if the culture is not changed, not only in the police department, also in the city hall, then this will be difficult to do. So I wish we can see something as what Mr. Jackson said, we should think outside the box. Then we can put the right things in the box. Thank you.
Are there any other folks? Oh, come on up.
Hi, I'm here because I was on the faculty at Superior School when Tamia was attending there. And I'm speaking only for myself, not the family, not the faculty, but I know some of Tamia's friends, kids in the school at that time, and the suffering that they have experienced having been on the walk with Tamia to the library. And I attended, to Calvin Williams' credit, he had a community meeting subsequent to all this to explain things, and I attended that. And I struggled so much with that because I saw his tears and I saw his expressions of care for the community. And I understand how difficult policing is, sort of the damned if you do, damned if you don't. But he brought copies of the Chase policy, and he described how he had reviewed all this and that the officers performed in relation to the policy. Of course, I couldn't read it until afterwards. And I read the policy, and it's like, you're supposed to be attentive to chases during school hours. Happened right after school. So there's a whole list of things, and it's like, how can you sit there and say they have worked in fidelity with a policy when it's so apparent that that's not true? I feel like I'm, being told to accept an untruth somehow. And I I know so many of these people are trying so hard to provide safety for our community, but it's so messed up. It's just so wrong. People keep being killed. We need to stop these chases. Thank you.
To your point, I think, that's an example of, like, you read through the policy as a layperson, and you looked at the facts as you knew them from police reports, or not police reports, but from news reports. And even in your cursory review of it, you saw that they didn't follow the policy, right? And so that's an example of no accountability. And that's an example of why our community is not prepared at this moment to fully trust the police department. Because when you see something like that in public, it shocks the conscience, the human in you, and you're offended by it and you're upset. And then you expect someone who is part of our community to hold supervisors and officers accountable. I could go through a plethora of facts that would astonish you at this moment, but I'm not going to do that, of what took place on that day that was more egregious than what you heard, but there was still no accountability. Even in the way that we resolved it, there was still no accountability. And so I think what we have to make sure that the department understands, and our community, we have to continue to echo, if you want us to trust you, for example, when you're in a relationship, we're in a relationship with the police department. It's community. We know people who are on the department. We understand people make mistakes, but if you're honest about it, then that starts the process of healing. Okay, now that I know that you're honest, that you made the mistake, I know that you can be committed in making sure that it doesn't happen again. But if you never admit the mistake, if you never accept accountability, then we can't move forward. And so I think that is what is one of the major issues that is holding us back as a community and holds a lot of communities back. In other communities, you'll see that the administration will come out, the smart administration will come out and be like, hey, we failed. We understand. Now, we know that there's going to be a huge financial ramification with the attorneys who are pursuing this, but we're going to get this over with. We failed, and we admit it, and we're going to deal with the consequences. We're going to discipline the officers who are involved. And let me say this. I don't think that, in a lot of situations, I don't think we throw those officers away. They get punished, just like we don't throw people in our community away when they make mistakes, right? Because I don't think that generally maybe the behavior and what they're doing is intentional, right? But I don't think an officer goes out there and says, hey, I want to drive over a little girl. I want to pursue that guy, and I know that he's going to hit that. If they could foresee that, they probably wouldn't do it, right? But let's just be honest with ourselves. That you have to admit your part in it. So as supervisors, as leaders, you have to be willing to make that commitment to that. Because if you want the community to continue to trust you, you have to be honest, you have to be open, and you have to admit your mistakes so that we can grow and move on. Because once you admit it, then we can trust that you're committed in doing the work so it doesn't happen again, or at least we lessen the chances of it happening. And so I think that's what we need to continue to relay to our departments, that we're in this with you, but you gotta come clean with us so we know what we need to be dealing with.
I have one more question. I hear the commission's responsibility is only for the Cleveland Police Department, but I think you're hearing, as a region, we have a huge issue with police departments crossing boundaries. I hope that you can use your bully pulpit. We always talk about regionalization and collaboration and all that kind of stuff. Can't there be a call for there to be some kind of collaboration among police departments to develop an agreement that they're not going to chase across cities? I mean, why do they need to do that? Can't we, as a community, say, you know, we expect our people who have the power to make these decisions to make them. Not just say, oh, well, we can only just do what's in our control. It affects all of us in the county.
That's why I just want to say real quick, Parma, and I witnessed it, Captain Simon.
Will you come up to the mic so that we can hear? We want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, excuse me. I just wanted to say, I witnessed Captain Simon Parma chase people for stealing. And I went to Parma, to their city council, and to the chief, and told them, why do you have to always do that in our city? Cleveland always get hit with that. They chase them right down St. Clair, the car flipped right on 118th and St. Clair. I've seen it every single time. And they said, well, you know, they're stealing. Okay, catch them in your city. Catch them in your city. You don't see Cleveland coming in your city chasing people for theft, do you? If it is, tell me. I want to see that. And that it just needs to stop. And Parma has it real bad. And that's something that needs to be dealt with. And I agree with her when she says that, because we can't afford that. And true, Cleveland police would not help them chase. And they've told them that. You know, you come in, we're not helping you chase. So that's an issue.
Yeah, that's not enough.
I want to thank everyone who spoke today, who asked a question. Thank you. Who asked a question, who made a comment. We respect here on the CPC everyone's diverse opinion, and it's going to take that diverse opinion, the diverse thought, and the candid comment to help us form and draft this policy. So thank you very much. Are there any last comments from any of you all?
Just that the division's committed to consistently reviewing the policies that we do have, not just because we're under consent decree, but because it's the right thing to do. Not only are we committed to looking at our own policies, Sergeant Graham here is in the back of the room. She's our OIC of our policy unit. We reach out to communities all over the country to help us inform our policies with the best practices. So we get this little bit maybe from Albuquerque or this little bit from Baltimore, so that collectively we can help each other. I've been fortunate enough to join in on some meetings with chiefs of police from other cities where we share information and we try and all come together to come up with the best practices. So we do that. It's not just, we're not just thinking about Cleveland. We're just thinking about the best policies that keep our community safe, but also allow us to do our job in keeping the community safe.
We've shared a lot today, and one of the things I think that maybe we all agreed on is, or maybe I just agreed on it because I kept saying it, is that the policy is only as good as the implementation of the policy and the people who are trained on it. And I appreciate your comments. I think hopefully you'll leave here today knowing that the policy is only as good as the people who are trained and the people who are implementing it and the people who are holding the individuals who are implementing the policy accountable. So the policy can come from Mars. It could be a policy from the future. But if officers aren't prepared to understand or tested on that policy, it's not a GPO that they're constantly reviewing. They're not constantly being trained on this because it's that important to the police department and the community, then we will not see a change in the way that pursuits happen in Cleveland and throughout our country. We got to do something different. We have to hold each other accountable, and we have to be willing to not only call out the problem, but be part of the solution. I think one of the great avenues that we can have in our community is what we're doing today, having this discussion. Whenever I'm having these discussions, I'm always learning from the police, from the community, from other lawyers, from other families who are in these unfortunate circumstances. there's always an opportunity to learn in every situation that we're in, and we have to be willing to walk away from it, willing to try something different so that we can get a better result in our communities. And so I say all that to say that when we think about policies, I also do medical malpractice. And one of the things that Cleveland Clinic and some of the other nationally renowned hospitals do is they retain the lawyers that sue them. Smart idea, right? Because we're going through your paperwork and we understand and we know where you've made the failures. So they retain those lawyers, albeit at a rate, but they pay on the front end because they understand and they appreciate the lives that are at stake if they don't do so. And all I'm saying is that let's think outside of the box and let's start bringing other people to the table to help us come up with solutions and having listening sessions so we know kind of, all right, this is what happened. This is what we may have failed on, and being honest with ourselves, what do we need to do? Not write policy so we can't get sued, do the procedures and the training so that we don't lose lives. The suit are because of the lives, not because of the money grab. It's because of the lives that are being lost. Many of us have, what do you call it, like prescription bottles. And the cap, the twist cap that comes down, that's there to try to stop our children from opening them, and our children are smarter, so they still open them anyway. But the point of it is that started because of various lawsuits, okay? And those lawsuits were there to deter or to get those companies to find other ways to be proactive. And so I say all that to say that we need to start thinking outside of the box by employing and bringing other people to the table so that we can hear their voices and opinions and their expertise. The Cochran firm is all over the country pursuing these. There are other firms that are doing it. Maybe inviting someone from those groups to the table to help you figure out what they see on their end, because we see things from different perspectives, right? I can only understand my perspective. I'm not a police officer, I've never been physically in a pursuit, so I don't see what they see. But I know what I see when I'm able to when I'm able to quarterback it later, let me say that in the nicest way. When I'm able to look back and read and see it and I'm not in the moment. And so there has to be a real conversation with ourselves that we need to bring new people to the table to help with the same problem, but a new solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stan. Really quick before our next speaker, I'm going to show you guys this paper sitting on the table over there. This is our police vehicle pursuit survey. If you have not already, please grab this sheet of paper, scan this QR code, and complete this survey. Your input is extremely valuable to the work we do and in our efforts to shape this policy. Next is Commissioner Chandra Benito. She's going to give us a little bit of information on our police policy committee and how you guys can get more involved.
Thank you. I just want to do a few thank yous. One to Co-Chair Zayed for all of your fantastic leadership of the commission and also your work on this event. I also want to shout out our other co-chair, Co-Chair John Adam, and then a few other commissioners in the room. So we have Commissioner Ridgway, Commissioner Chura, and then Commissioner Van Leer. And Commissioner Ridgway is also on the Vehicle Pursuits Work Group, so I wanted to say thank you for your work on that. So I wanted to give a little bit of...
What do you guys do? All these commissioners in here, what do you do?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So the commission in general provides oversight of the CDP, and that includes in discipline, in community outreach and community policing, and then also in training and then in police policy. So that's kind of part of where we are today in this discussion. So we have a number of committees on the commission, and one of them is the Police Policy Committee. And so the work group that we are here with today, that we're soliciting this feedback on, is the Police Policy Committee. And how that process works is CDP drafts their GPOs, which is the word they use, General Police Order, for a police policy. They send it to the Police Policy Committee, and then we review it. Sometimes we form work groups to do more deep dives into the policies and to engage with experts and community members. So for the Vehicle Pursuits GPO, which is what we've been talking about tonight, we have a work group that's been formed. And so that work groups consist of community members, experts, and then commissioners. And so for the Vehicle Pursuits work group, we're actually soliciting involvement from community members. And so we are hoping to get between 5 and 7 community members to join us. We are going to have 3 meetings between now and the end of September, which is when we're aiming to have a draft completed for the Police Policy Committee. Those meetings will be Thursday, August 29th from 4 to 5, Thursday, September 5th from 4 to 5, and Thursday, September 12th from 4 to 5. TPC will be sending out that information, but if you have any interest in joining that work group, please come talk to one of us, or you can send an email to clecpc@clevelandohio.gov, and that email address, or you can reach out to Commissioner Co-Chair Zayed. She has her card here, and any of the staff members, they'd be happy to connect with you. So we would love to have members that are here tonight. Yes, Commissioner Ridgway?
I just want to say, in responding to this question, that one of the things we should be doing as commissioners, we should be attending your meetings in your neighborhoods. You shouldn't have to hear about this the first time in this forum. We should be out in your neighborhoods, attending your neighborhood meetings, hearing what your concerns are, and being ready to bring those concerns back to the full committee. We shouldn't have to listen to you once every now and then at a public forum like this. It's definitely one way to do it, but we should be engaged in community work throughout. And there is a national organization, NACOLE, that actually brings all of us in police accountability and oversight together. And I have been taking workshops, and other commissioners have too, at least every other month or so. I just participated in one with police chiefs from New York, from Florida, talking about training, talking about all of these things, so we can bring those thoughts, their practices, back to our commission to see how we can engage in some of the work that they are doing. I just want to say that. I don't think there's nothing more important than hearing you, the community, speak about what you want your community to be. And you can't do it just by coming to a forum every now and then. Just like we are accountable to you, there is a responsibility on your part to let us hear from you as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Ridgway. So those are all the different ways that you can sign up for the Vehicle Pursuits work group. I also want to give a little bit of information about what we do with the policies. So when we receive these policies from the CDP, sometimes they go into a work group, and then once we do a deep dive and make some revisions, it goes back to the Police Policy Committee to review and vote on, and then go to the full commission. When the Police Policy Committees are looking at the policies, we're looking at a number of different things. One is we're looking at, does this GPO protect the rights and well-being of our community members? Is it in compliance with constitutional policing, the consent decree, policing best practices, etc.? Does the GPO protect the rights and well-being of police officers? And also, does the GPO contribute to upholding police accountability? So those are the things that we're considering when we are looking at the GPOs, including this one. Then, if you, a few ways that you can give feedback on police policies. Our police policy committee meets the third Wednesday of each month at the CPC offices from 6 to 8 p.m. And during those meetings, there are discussions happening about the policies as well as decisions being made, but there is always public comment period. So you can come and you can make a comment during those meetings, and you can, I don't know what you, oh, the address, yes, it is, the office is 3631 Perkins Avenue. It's on the 4th floor. And you can also find all of that information at clecpc.org. Some of the policies that we have been focusing on, one includes obviously the vehicle pursuit. Some of the policies that we've passed this year include protocols around what officers do and the procedures that happen when they experience a traumatic event, how officers should check for warrants, and how they can make sure that that the person that's in front of them actually matches the warrant, our gunshot detection system, so how ShotSpotter is being used. And so that is kind of, in general, a little bit about what the Police Policy Committee is doing. We would love for you to be involved. And so just to summarize, some ways that you can get involved with police policy work: attending our policy committee meetings, attend full commission meetings, which happen on the 4th Wednesday of each month. They're usually, or most often, are at the CPC offices, but we also go around the city. And so you can find out where our meetings are on our website. There's also a way on the website to sign up to get emails from us, and so then you will be in the loop of events that are happening. You can also join work groups, and then you can also complete surveys that we send out about policies, and also you can contact any commission staff or commissioner, and we will work with you to make sure that your voice is heard and your feedback gets to us. I also want to shout out one other event that's happening this Saturday, which is there's been a lot of conversation about training tonight, and that our policies are only as good as the training that is received on them, and as the officers are enacting them. And so if you want to see more about how CDP is doing training, we have an event on reality-based training, which is something that CDP has really been embracing, and which is, instead of training that is just a PowerPoint or a lecture or an online module, actually having officers go through live scenarios with trained actors, and kind of forcing them to experience a live scenario so that then they can really put those policies into practice and get feedback in a safe and secure environment. So the details for that event are, it is this Saturday, and I am pulling up the details right. At Garrett Morgan High School, 10 o'clock. I'm going to let Dr. Adams give you the information.
I just think off the top of my head, so I'm John Adams, I'm the other co-chair. So basically this scenario is going to be a replication of what we did last year in December, where we did stimulations of use of force in front of the community. It was actually a really good event. We would like a larger turnout this time. It was real intimate, and the citizens were able to really talk to the police. It was like a real conversation. So they will be doing new scenarios from than what they did in December. This particular event is going to be focused on the use of force. It will be at Garrett Morgan High School this Saturday, August 24th. I believe it starts at 10 o'clock, but just to double check, please go onto the website. Or is that correct, Samantha? Okay, so 10 o'clock, I thought that was right. And it would be great to hear from you all, because I learned a lot from this event, from listening to people. I used to be a chair of the training committee, and it got me thinking about sort of, you know, how we focus so much of our training on the patrolman officers, but maybe we need more training and more support for supervisors as well. So there's just a lot of things I think that we can get out of this as commissioners, as we try to do the right thing by the community. So we hope that we'll see you out on Saturday. And if you can't make it, it'll be live streamed. You could always take one of our cars and follow up with us, and we can get you connected to who you need to get connected with. But it would be really nice to have this type of feedback as well from the community on one of the other important issues of the reasons why we're in a consent decree, which is there's pursuits, but there's also use of force. So we hope that we see you on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last thing I'll just say, if you have additional questions about the policy committee, you can come talk to me. Also, our chair of the policy committee is here, Commissioner Van Leer is in the back. And so, all of us are happy to answer questions. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner Benito. So on behalf of the Cleveland Community Police Commission, I want to say thank you for coming out today. As I said before, your input is crucial in the work we do. Please, I'm asking you guys, show up, come to the meetings, help us help you, and remember to complete the survey on your way out. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to say something. In order for them to keep our attention.
My card, we gave you the website to the commission. Stay involved, contact us, come to our meetings.
Well, you guys